Why is your son even invited? This is family. My sister tore up our RSVP. I smiled. On January 1st, I quietly ended the $3,400 per month help I'd given them for 6 years. You know, there's a moment in your life when something just snaps. Like a switch gets flipped, and suddenly, the person you thought you were, the family you bled for, it all just crumbles. For me, it was when my own sister looked me dead in the eye, ripped up my 8-year-old son's invitation to her wedding, and then told him he wasn't really family. It all went down at my parents' dining table. Trish, my sister, held our RSVP card between 2 fingers like it was a dirty diaper. "Sten +1, she said, her voice dripping with disgust. That was obviously a mistake. You were supposed to put just you. We can't add random kids. It messes with the seating chart." My son, Leo, was at the end of the table, meticulously lining up some gold pens. He loves things neat, you know? He froze. His little hand stopped on a pen. My mom, bless her heart, just stared at her list, pretending to be busy, pretending not to hear. But I heard it. And I felt that familiar, searing heat climb up my neck. Honestly, I was just so tired. Tired from dinner service the night before. Tired from the red-eye flight. But mostly, I was just so utterly exhausted from 6 years of pretending my family saw Leo as anything more than an inconvenience attached to their personal ATM. I wrote his name because he's my son, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "And your nephew." Trish rolled her eyes, a classic move. "This is a family wedding," she repeated, louder this time. "Not some daycare. It's adults only, except for kids who are actually family, obviously." Leo looked up at me then. His eyes did that flicker thing they do when he's fighting back tears. And that's when Trish did it. She held the RSVP right over the trash can by her feet and, with a vicious pull, tore it clean in half. "There," she said, dropping the pieces into the bin. "Fixed." My boy's mouth trembled just once. He swallowed hard and whispered so quietly I almost missed it. "It's okay, Daddy." But I heard it. And I heard it like a shout. It absolutely shattered me. I patted his head, kept my voice level, and gave my sister a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "You're right," I said. "It is a family wedding." In that moment, I knew I wasn't going. And I knew something far, far bigger than a party had just ended. See, I'm Stan, 41. I'm an executive chef at a Michelin star restaurant in Chicago. I work insane hours, nights, weekends, holidays. I sign my name on tasting menus that cost more than my first car. People plan anniversaries around my food, get engaged over my desserts, send me these long, heartfelt emails about how my risotto changed their lives. But to my family, none of that mattered. To them, I was just the one who made it, which, in their language, meant the one we can ask for money. I've been a single dad since Leo was 2. His mom just faded out. No big drama, just gone. So, it's always been me and Leo. I work. I raise my kid. I try to be there for every school concert, even if I walk in smelling like garlic and smoke straight from the kitchen. My parents live in the suburbs, and Trish lives 10 minutes away. This was her second wedding, a fresh start, they called it. They also called my monthly transfers a temporary loan. That temporary loan? It had been going on for 6 years. Every single month on the first, $3,400 disappeared from my account and landed in theirs. It started when my dad, at 60, lost his job because he refused to learn anything new. Mortgages behind, car payments late, utilities stacking up. My mom called me, crying, saying they'd lose the house. I was finally making good money, so I said, I'll cover it for a few months, just until Dad figures things out. We even signed a proper loan agreement. Interest, repayment schedule, the works. Dad laughed through the whole thing like it was a joke. "You know we'd never screw you over, son," he said. 6 months turned into a year, then 2. Then Trish decided she wanted to redo her kitchen. And somehow, that temporary loan started covering everything. New appliances, a deck, my parents' cruise, my mom's dental work, even my dad's emergency golf club membership, because that's life or death, right? Every time I tried to scale back, there was a new crisis. The heat went out, the car died, The grandkids needed private school. The number stayed at $3,400 because that's what covered the mortgage plus whatever Trish had tacked on that year. It was just easier to keep paying than to listen to the endless guilt trips. Meanwhile, Leo? They forgot his birthday twice. Spelled his name wrong on every card they did send. They never took him for a weekend, never came to a school play. They loved being grandparents in theory. In practice, it meant pointing to photos of my other nephews on Facebook and talking about the little ones, like Leo was just some random kid standing in the frame. I kept telling myself it would change. Once things stabilized, once the house was paid off, once the wedding was over. I ignored how he always ended up at the folding card table with the spare chairs. How he never got his own stocking at Christmas, just a little bag of candy taped to mine. How my mom introduced him as Sten's boy to her friends, never our grandson. I kept thinking if I just keep showing up, they'll eventually see him. They saw me. They saw my money. They saw everything except him. The wedding was supposed to be a big reset. New husband for Trish, a new leaf for the family. She'd actually called me months before, chirping, of course, Leo's invited. He'll be our ring bearer, we'll get him a mini tux, it'll be cute. I'd actually been excited. Leo had never been in a wedding. He started practicing walking slowly across our tiny living room, holding an imaginary pillow. Then the invitation arrived. Fancy, thick card, gold foil, all that. Addressed to Mr. Stanislav Novak. Not and family. Not and son. Inside, the RSVP line had a pre-printed ________ seats reserved in your honor, and next to my name, someone had written a single, cold one in black ink. I thought it was a mistake. A missed detail. I wrote in two anyway. Under names of guests attending, I put Stan and Leo Novak. I even added a little smiley face, like an idiot. Then, fast forward to that dining table. To Trish ripping the card in half. To Leo whispering, "It's okay, Daddy." It wasn't okay. Trish dropped into a chair, already scrolling her phone. "You can still come," she said, not looking up. "Just come alone. Adult night out." It's not like he'd remember it anyway. He will, I told her, my voice tight. He remembers everything. My dad wandered in from the living room, beer in hand. "What's going on?" "Nothing," Trish snapped. Sten misunderstood the invitation. He wanted to bring Leo. "You know we don't have space for extras." Extras? I looked at my parents. My mom wouldn't meet my eyes. My dad just shrugged. "Weddings are expensive, son. You know that." I almost laughed. A bitter, hollow sound. Between the venue, the dress, the photographer, I'd already quietly covered nearly $15,000. That was on top of my regular $3,400 a month. I'd paid the deposit on the reception hall, helped with the catering, even sent a check for the DJ when Trish complained Mark's family wasn't helping at all. And now my son was an extra. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stay calm. "So, just to be clear," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "You want my money at the wedding? You just don't want my child." Trish rolled her eyes again. "Don't be so dramatic. It's just numbers. We already set the seating. If we add Leo, someone has to move. And the other kids are all in the wedding party, so it's different." Leo, still at the end of the table, picked up one of the gold pens and quietly put it back in the box. His shoulders were hunched, that specific kid posture that says, "If I'm small enough, maybe nobody will notice me." Mom finally spoke. "Sweetheart," she said to me, not Leo. "It's just one night. You and Leo have lots of time together. Trish only gets one wedding." Second, I thought. This is her second wedding. I didn't say it. Instead, something inside me just stopped. Like a burner being turned off. A quiet click. "Got it," I said, the words feeling strangely light. "Thanks for clearing that up." I touched Leo's shoulder. "Come on, buddy. We're heading out." Trish blinked. "You're leaving right now? Over this?" Leo looked up at me quickly, panicked, like he didn't want to be the reason. "It's okay, Daddy," he whispered again. "You can go without me. I don't mind." That broke me. More than anything they'd said. I crouched down, eye to eye with him. I'm not going anywhere you're not welcome, kiddo, I told him. Not anymore. He gave a tiny nod, tried to smile, failed. I stood, grabbed my coat, and looked at my parents and my sister one last time. You guys enjoy your family wedding, I said. Really? You've made it very clear who counts. No yelling, no drama. Just that. They stared at me like I'd ruined everything. Maybe I had. But they started it when they erased my kid. The wedding went on without us. I know because my cousin, out of sheer spite for Trish, sent me a picture. Trish in white lace, Mark in his tux, the other nieces and nephews lined up like a children's clothing catalog. Captions everywhere about family only and the people who matter most. Leo saw one picture on my phone before I could close it. His face went still. He didn't ask why we weren't there. He just went to his room and started building a Lego restaurant. When I peeked in later, he'd named it Leo and Dad's. No grandparents, no aunts. The day after the wedding, my mother left me a voicemail. You embarrassed your sister, she said, her voice tight with disapproval. People noticed you weren't there. They asked questions. We told them you had an emergency at the restaurant, so you're welcome. But really, Sten, you have to stop making everything about Leo. You chose to have a child. That doesn't mean the whole family has to rearrange their lives around him. The whole family. The people I'd been quietly funding for 6 years. The Michelin star had changed my professional life, but it hadn't changed my student loans, my rent, or the constant repairs in my tiny apartment. But it did mean my nights were booked out months in advance. It meant each month I had to choose, fix the oven door in my own kitchen, or pay another $3,400 to people who thought my son was optional. I'd done the math a few weeks earlier, before the invitation even showed up. 6 years. $3,400 a month. 12 months a year. That's $40,800 a year. Multiply that by 6 years, and you get $244,800. Almost $250,000. To people who wouldn't put my kid's name on an envelope. I listened to my mother's voicemail twice. Then I played it on speaker while I scraped burnt cheese off a hotel pan at the restaurant. Mia, my sous chef, looked up from inventory. You good? She asked. I shrugged. Just my family reminding me I'm an idiot. She dried her hands, took my phone, and listened. Her face went flat. Stan, she said, her voice calm but firm. Why are you still paying for them? Because they're my parents, I said automatically. Because they needed help. Because they like your money more than your kid, she cut in. I've heard enough stories to know that's true. I didn't answer. Because she was right. That night, after dinner service, I sat alone in my tiny office at the back of the kitchen. It smelled like onions and printer toner. I opened my banking app. There it was, in black and white. Next scheduled transfer, January 1st, $3,400. Auto repeat, yes. I stared at that line for a long, long time. Leo was asleep at home, curled up with the stuffed fox he pretends he doesn't need anymore. His backpack was on the floor by the door, zipper half open, his school party invitation peeking out. Every kid in his class was invited. The teacher had written, siblings welcome. No one had asked whether he counted. That was the difference. I thought about the RSVP ripped in half. About my sister's voice, this is a family wedding. About Leo whispering, it's okay, Daddy, like he was the problem. I thought about $250,000. And about the next 6 years. My finger hovered over the screen. Then I did it. On January 1st, I canceled that $3,400 per month loan. One tap to turn off auto transfer. One more to move the entire emergency fund I'd kept in the joint account to a new account with just my name on it. A confirmation popped up. Recurring transfer canceled. Effective immediately. I took a screenshot, emailed it to myself. Then I printed a copy and slid it into a folder labeled simply, Boundaries. They noticed fast. January 3rd, 9:12 a.m. My phone lit up with a call from Dad. I let it go to voicemail. Hey son, he said, sounding agitated. Bank called. Looks like there was some glitch with the transfer this month. Might want to check that. We've got the mortgage auto drafted on the 15th. So just, call me. No mention of Leo. No mention of the wedding. January 4th. My mother texted, "Hey sweetheart, the account came up short. Probably just a mistake with the holidays. Can you fix it today? We already paid deposits for the spring break trip with the kids." Spring break. The trip I was paying for, obviously. I set the phone down and made Leo pancakes shaped like stars. He drowned them in maple syrup and told me about a book they were reading in class. He asked if we could maybe go to the lake in the summer. Just us. Not a big trip. Just you and me. We can do that, I said. We can do a lot of that this year. I didn't answer my parents. January 5th. Trish called 6 times. I finally picked up on the 7th because I was in the walk-in and I didn't want my line cooks hearing the voicemail. "What is wrong with you?" she snapped. "No, hello. Mom said the money didn't come through. Are you punishing us because you threw a tantrum about the wedding?" I laughed once. It came out sharp. "You ripped up my RSVP in front of my son," I said. "You told him he wasn't family." "Oh my God, you are so dramatic," she said. "He's a kid. He'll forget. We had limited seats." "You had unlimited access to my bank account," I said. "You want family only? You got it. My money is staying with my family." "So Dad and Mom aren't your family now," she shot back. "After everything they did for you?" "Like what? Raising me? Feeding me when I was a kid? That's called parenting, not an investment with a guaranteed return." But I didn't bother saying it. I just said, "I'm not your backup bank, Trish. Not anymore." She went quiet for a second. When she spoke again, her voice had that tight, cold edge I'd heard 1,000 times. "If you do this," she said, "don't expect us to be there for you when you need us." I thought about it. About every bill I'd paid. About every emergency I'd covered. "When have you ever been?" I asked. Then I hung up. I made a rule right then. I would only repeat one sentence from now on. "I'm not funding a family my son isn't part of." That was it. No defending, no explaining, no justifying. Just that line. They didn't take it well. The group chat that used to be for family memes turned into a guilt machine. "Mom, we're your parents. You don't turn your back on parents." "Dad, after everything we sacrificed, this is how you repay us?" "Trish, Mark's parents are disgusted. They said you clearly don't understand family loyalty." I didn't respond. I blocked the group chat. Left their messages on read on my laptop so they wouldn't see the scene icon on my phone. They switched to email. "Mom, we're not asking for much, just what you've always helped with. Your father is stressed. His blood pressure is up. Do you want to be responsible if something happens? Dad, I signed those loan papers in good faith. You know we'll pay you back when we can. Stopping now when we're so close to catching up is cruel." They weren't close. They'd paid back exactly $0. I forwarded every email to my boundaries folder and then into another folder labeled lawyer, just in case. The only person who didn't harass me was my older brother, Alex. He lives 2 states away and keeps his head down. He called one night after service, his voice quiet. "I heard about the wedding," he said. "And about the money." "I'm sure you heard their version," I said. "I heard enough of yours over the years," he replied. I just wanted to say I get it. We stopped sending them money last year. Not for anything big, just, we realized they never talk to the kids unless they want something. It didn't feel right anymore. "You're still going to visit?" I asked. "Yeah," he sighed. "Kids want to see their cousins." "I'll go, but..." I told them if they ever talk about your kid the way they talk about you, we're done. A small, tired warmth settled in my chest. "Thanks," I said. He snorted. "Don't thank me. Thank your son. He's the only one who ever drew pictures for my kids at Christmas. They still have them on their wall. Leo. With his crayons and careful block letters. The one my parents never bothered to learn anything about. The money stopped. The bills didn't. By February, Mom sent me a frantic text. "Bank is threatening foreclosure. We're behind. We need help now. Can you at least send something? Just until we sell the boat." The boat? The one they bought 3 years into the temporary loan because Dad said he deserved something nice in retirement. I stared at the message, then typed slowly, "I'm sorry you're struggling. I'm not sending more money. I'm not funding a family my son isn't part of." She replied instantly, "So, you want us homeless?" I deleted 3 drafts of responses before settling on nothing. A day later, Mia caught me staring at my phone in the prep area. They still pushing? She asked. Foreclosure threats, I said. Apparently, I'm making them homeless. She raised an eyebrow. Or they did, she said, when they spent your loan on boats and cruises. I sighed. Yeah. She bumped my shoulder. Hey, question. If Leo were grown, and he was sending thousands a month to people who treated his kid like an extra, what would you tell him? Easy, I said right away. I'd tell him to stop. And to take his kid somewhere they actually matter. Mia smiled. Then listen to yourself, chef. So I did. I booked a tiny cabin by the lake for the week of what would have been their spring break trip. It had bunk beds and a sad little kitchenette and a view of the water that Leo thought was the best thing he'd ever seen. We get the whole week, he asked when I showed him the photos. Whole week, I said. Just you and me. We'll grill outside, make s'mores, maybe fish. No tuxes, no assigned seats. He laughed at that, not quite understanding, but sensing the joke. We went in March. While Trish was posting photos of flower arrangements and choreographed first dances, Leo and I were on a wooden dock eating grilled cheese sandwiches off paper plates. He leaned his head against my arm. This is better than a wedding anyway, he said. He was right. The foreclosure never happened. My parents didn't end up on the street. They sold the boat. They refinanced the house. They finally cut their cable package. They didn't die. They just had to live within their means for the first time in decades. You'd think that would be the end of it. It wasn't. In April, I got an email. Subject: Family Contribution Fairness. It was from Trish. Since you've decided to stop helping Mom and Dad, Mark and I think it's only fair that you at least cover what you owe for the wedding. The venue and catering deposits were made, assuming your contribution. Please transfer $12,000 by the end of the month. I actually laughed out loud. The prep cook nearest me jumped. I wrote back, I already paid the initial deposits last fall. You know that. I'm not sending more. I told you I'm not funding a family my son isn't part of. She replied within minutes. This isn't about family. It's about commitments. You're making everything about your kid again. This was an adult decision. Be an adult. I stared at that line. This isn't about family. From the person who screamed family wedding while ripping up my RSVP. I didn't answer. Instead, I lowered the family emergency contact at the restaurant from my parents' house to my friend Victor's number. He's our pastry chef and the closest thing Leo has to an uncle who actually shows up. I changed my will the same week. No more vague parents share clause. Everything went to Leo. A small fund for Alex's kids. Nothing for Trish. Nothing for Mom and Dad. It wasn't revenge. It was math. Who actually loved my kid? Who actually loved me? That's who got written down. The first time I saw my parents after all of this was on Father's Day. Not because they came to see me. Because they showed up at the restaurant. We were doing a special brunch, full house, open kitchen, people watching us work like it was theater. I was plating poached eggs when I heard my host's slightly panicked voice in my earpiece. Chef, there are 2 people out front, insisting they're your parents. They don't have a reservation. They say it's urgent. I glanced through the pass window. There they were, standing by the door, dressed up, scanning the room like they expected applause. Tell them we're full, I said. Offer them a spot next week. The host relayed the message. I watched my mother's mouth tighten. She said something I couldn't hear. The host shook his head. My father stepped past him and started walking toward the kitchen. Mia moved instinctively to block the entrance. She's 5'3" on a good day, but no one gets past that woman when she's decided they're not coming in. Health code, she said, pointing to the sign. No street clothes beyond this point. Dad looked at me over her shoulder. Stan, he said, loud enough that a few tables turned. We need to talk. I kept my tone even. I'm at work. This is important, he pushed. It's about family. There it was again. That word. I put down my tongs and walked to the edge of the pass. I didn't step onto the dining room floor. That felt symbolic in a way I knew I'd remember. I'm not doing this here, I said quietly. If you want to talk, you can call. But if it's about money, the answer is no. Mom jumped in. It's about Leo, she said. We haven't seen him in months. It's not fair to keep him from his grandparents. My jaw clenched. You're the ones who didn't want him at the wedding, I said. You're the ones who called him an extra. I'm not keeping him from anyone. You made your choice. People were definitely listening now. Phones were out. This was the kind of live drama people love with their Eggs Benedict. Dad lowered his voice just enough that most of the room couldn't hear, but I still caught it. You're letting that boy ruin this family. That boy, my boy. Mia stepped a little closer to me, like she could physically hold me back if I snapped. I didn't snap. I just repeated myself. I'm not funding a family my son isn't part of, I said. And I'm not handing him to people who think he's a problem. I nodded to the host. Please show them out. Mom's eyes filled with tears on command. You'll regret this, she said. When he grows up and sees what you did. Maybe he would. But I doubted it. Because Leo was there the night I canceled the transfer. He was sitting at the table, doing homework, while I stared at the screen. I hadn't explained the whole thing, but I'd told him enough. I used to give Grandma and Grandpa money every month to help with their bills, I'd said. He looked up surprised. Like a lot of money? Yeah, I'd said. A lot. Why? Because I thought that's what family does, I said. But family is supposed to take care of each other, and they don't really take care of you. He'd gone quiet for a second. Then he'd said, I think we are a family even if they aren't. That was it. That was my answer. The quiet closure didn't come in one big scene. No shouting in the rain, just small choices. I stopped driving to the suburbs for holidays. Stopped sending happy birthday texts into the void. Stopped checking Facebook to see if Leo was in the background of any photo. He never was. So, we made our own traditions. On Thanksgiving, I closed the restaurant and fed my staff. Leo sat between Mia and Victor, teaching them paper airplanes. At Christmas, I skipped gifts for my parents, put that money into an account called Leo's Future, and took him downtown for lights and street hot dogs. On New Year's Eve, almost a year after I canceled that loan, I booked the restaurant for us. Me, Leo, a few friends, and Alex with his kids. Leo set a corner table with place cards. Dad, Leo, Mia, Victor, Uncle Alex, and 2 blanks for anyone who joins our family later. No seats for Grandma or Grandpa. Only space for people who actually show up. When we toasted, I raised my glass. And I think the year I finally stopped being everyone else's wallet and started being my own family's foundation.